Okay, can you tell me a little bit about yourself, where you grew up, and...
Well, okay. My name is Bill Baize, and I actually grew up in Evansville, Indiana, and I left there in the early, mid-1960s. Went to work with a group called the Smitty Gatlin Trio out in Fort Worth, Texas. And then I came back to Nashville to work with the Hal Kennedy Trio and worked with them for a couple months, and Hal Kennedy disbanded the group. And then I went to David Lipscomb University for about 3 years and completed a 4-year course in 3 years. And just when I was getting ready to graduate from that, I got the opportunity to audition for the Stamps. And I went with the Stamps in 1971. I graduated college in June of 71. Went with the Stamps in February, and they flew me to their dates until June, and then I went full-time with them. They flew me to most of their weekend dates when I was out of school.
So is that what you always wanted to do? You wanted to be,
Oh, yeah. I wanted to be in a gospel quartet. I didn't have aspirations of working with Elvis at all, but I just wanted to be in a gospel quartet. And so then I just started with the Stamps, and the Imperials Quartet, who was working with Elvis, had a call from Jimmy Dean. And they decided to work with Jimmy Dean, and so Elvis called the Stamps Quartet, and because he knew J.D. Sumner really well from past, you've probably heard all about it.
Oh, yeah.
Excuse me, most people have. But he called J.D. Sumner. Actually, Charlie Hodge made contact with him and asked J.D. Sumner if he knew who might be able to do the work behind him, since the Imperials had retired or had left him. And J.D. said, well, maybe my group could do it, so he sent him one of our albums, and Elvis really fell for our music and liked it a lot. Asked if J.D. if we'd be interested in doing it. He said, well, of course we would. And so that's how we ended up there.
Now, what year did the Stamps?
1971.
Wow.
We joined the Stamps in February of 1971, and we went with the Elvis show in November of 1971.
Were you an Elvis fan?
I was whenever I was very young. When I was a teenager and Elvis was a teenager, I was about 15 and he was 20, 19 and 20. And when his first songs, actually, I listened to them whenever, I guess when I was 13, 14 years old. He was 5 years older than I am. And I listened to his songs when I was a young teenager and courted to him like all the other young teenagers did at that time. And so that made me a fan of his, but during his movie years, I didn't go to the movies very much to watch his movies. But when he came back on his special in 1969, I watched that. Really kind of, renewed my being a fan all over again.
Yeah. Can you tell me about the first time when you met Elvis Presley?
Oh, yeah. That was something else.
Oh, it sticks in your mind, huh?
Yeah, oh, yeah. November of 1971, we were supposed to start on a tour with him in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And we went to the hotel. We flew up there to the hotel where we were supposed to stay and checked in the hotel. And then that afternoon in one of the meeting rooms in the hotel, they had a rehearsal for us with Elvis. And we were all there in the room waiting for him. It was customary for everybody to get assembled and ready and warmed up and everything before he ever came to rehearse with us or record with us or anything. And so that was my first experience with waiting like that, because I wasn't used to waiting for somebody else. But we waited for quite some time, and then he and all of his entourage, Red and Sonny and a whole bunch of guys, came in together. And it's quite interesting because he came in and introduced himself to us. Of course, we knew who he was. We had he hadn't really met us before, so he came and walked over and just introduced himself to us, each one. And I told him my name was Bill Baize. He said, "Yeah, I know who you are," like that. And that was pretty neat. And then I was kind of awed by then. And then all of a sudden he backed up. And when he came in, he had all these guys around him, and he had a lot of black hair, which he always had. And he had a cane, and he had these glasses on, and he was just messing around with the cane. He didn't need it, but he had it. And he backed up and grabbed the top of his head and pulled a wig off and threw it at Sylvia in the Sweet Inspirations, and Sylvia fell out. I mean, she just fell down on the floor laughing. And it was the funniest thing, because he had never worn a wig before that or since that. But he did that just to break the ice and everything. And actually, all the Sweet Inspirations just couldn't quit croaking. It was just really funny. And that was my first experience. And I said, this guy's really going to be fun.
Yeah. It sounded like that. Was he always like that? I mean, fooling around with the guys and stuff?
He did. He did a lot of that, yeah. He did a lot of just silly stuff, to tease with people. He liked to play pranks on people and do a lot of different things like that.
Like throwing water balloons and on stage and stuff?
Yeah, all that. They told us a story about him he was on a movie set, one of the movies he was doing out in the desert area there in California, one of the westerns he did, and he had a makeup man in a trailer, and the guy was afraid of snakes, and he sent Red and Sonny and them into town to buy a little garter snake from the pet store. They bought a garter snake and brought it back out there, and they knocked on the door of the makeup wagon. The man opened the door, and they threw the snake in there and slammed the door and held it shut. And that was one of Elvis's ideas.
Oh, my goodness. You give somebody a heart attack doing that.
Yeah. Well, a garter snake is not going to hurt anybody.
No.
It's the kind of, nobody's going to get hurt by that. It's like a garden snake,
Yeah.
He did kind of things like that. And then he'd been throwing a lot of water on Red and Sonny, and those guys during that particular movie experience. And he was in the makeup 4 hours one day, and they got up on top of the makeup trailer with a bucket full of water, and he had been sitting in makeup for 4 hours, and just the time he stepped out of the door, they dumped a whole bucket of water on him.
Oh, jeez.
So,
bunch of kids.
Yeah, they were just like a bunch of kids. And then in our experience with him, J.D. One time carried a water pistol on the stage with him, because Elvis had been introducing us, and after he'd get done with his introducing, this was in Las Vegas at the Hilton, he'd grab a cup of water. He always had those little small glasses of water. He'd grab a glass of water and take a sip, and then he'd throw the rest of it on J.D. So one time, J.D. bought him a water pistol, and Elvis did that to him. When Elvis turned around, he started just really drenching him with a water pistol. And Elvis turned around and dumped all the water he had on him.
Oh, goodness.
So there was stuff like that went on a lot.
Do you remember the Sahara Tahoe?
Do I remember what?
Do you remember working at the Sahara Tahoe?
The Sahara Tahoe, yeah.
Yeah.
I do.
It's funny how I've asked a lot of people, and they seem to say that Elvis really didn't care for the International, that he liked the Sahara better because it was more of a laid-back place. I was wondering what you thought about that.
Well, my experience was that both places were very exciting and very enjoyable for me to work, and I think just being a part of the Elvis show was just really an exciting thing to me. I had no aspirations of that when I started with the Stamps. I just figured we were going to just be singing gospel music and gospel concerts to small audiences, not huge audiences, but just maybe 5,000 people or something like that. But and we started working with Elvis, we had so many people, and on the tours especially. But at Sahara Tahoe, the experience for me was, it was exciting, but to me, I liked working Vegas better. It was just my personal experience. Just because I think the crowds were a little more excited in Vegas than they were in Tahoe.
Oh.
That was just my experience.
Oh.
And, you know, Elvis might have liked it better because of the laid backness.
Yeah.
But I think the crowds in Las Vegas were just very exciting crowds, and Lake Tahoe, they were exciting too, but they were different kind.
Yeah.
They were a little bit more reserved.
I know you did a lot of shows with Elvis, but is there one show that sticks in your mind because of something special happening or something? Or?
Yeah, there is. Madison Square Garden.
Wow.
The album live from Madison Square Garden in New York City. It was an exciting time because we were recording live that day, and we did, what was so exciting about it is we did a near perfect show, and they recorded it and took the tracks that they recorded. We didn't have to do any of the tracks or anything. A lot of live recordings, you have to go back and redo some of the tracks before they release an album. But no one had to redo the track on that show, and they had that album out within 1 week's time.
Wow.
And that's the most exciting thing I've ever been a part of, because I've been in the music business since I was 15 years old, and I'm 67. I'll be 68 in September. And I've never been a part of any recording that was done that well, you know, from start to finish.
Yeah, that's an incredible album.
Yeah. And so that's the most exciting one I had.
Yeah. You got along with everybody? Did you ever have any, did you get along with Colonel Parker? I mean, I didn't know the man. And
well, Colonel didn't talk with us very much. He wasn't associated. He would be at places at the concerts in Las Vegas, and we'd all speak to him, but he never did say much to the cast members.
Yeah, a lot of people say that.
Yeah, not to me, he didn't. I used to go and watch him when he played the roulette wheel in Vegas. I would stop sometimes after the show, and he'd be playing the roulette wheel some, and I'd stop and watch him, and just, because I didn't gamble, but I did watch him sometimes, and it was interesting to watch him and just kind of stand there for a while, and that was all I did.
Yeah.
And he would recognize us, you know, he'd say hi to us, and that'd be about it.
Yeah. I was talking to some of the other guys, and they said that there was talk about doing a gospel tour. Do you remember that?
There was talk. Elvis had talked about doing a gospel tour and even doing kind of a gospel show. There was even talk at one time of getting involved with some recording effort out of Motown and putting together a gospel television show. There was a talk of that at one time. It didn't materialize. There was talk of it. And it was really, that show would have been involving the Stamps Quartet and the Sweet Inspirations and the gospel singers on the show. Probably not Elvis, I don't think. But there was talk of that. And he had talked about, always talked about doing a lot more gospel music. He loved this stuff.
Well, he seemed to light up when he did gospel.
Oh, he did. He loved it. He was a dyed-in-the-wool gospel fan.
Now, you would do a show and get done with the show and many times think you were going to go to bed, but would stay up and sing with Elvis around the...
Yeah, we just got to where we expected that.
Really?
Especially at the hotel in Las Vegas. When we worked in Las Vegas, after the show, almost every night we'd go up to his suite and sing gospel music, and he'd have a lot of different guests, movie stars and big-time singers and things like that came to his show, and after the show he'd always invite them to his suite, and they'd sit around and chat a while, and we'd entertain them. That was our job.
Wow.
And we did gospel music for him, and he would sing with us some, and then he would ask us to sing certain songs that he liked that we did. And one of them I did a lot was called When It's My Time, and I did that for him a lot. I actually Vernon knew that, and so he asked that I sing it at Elvis's funeral.
Oh, goodness.
And,
that must have been very hard for you to do.
It was difficult. It was very hard. But you still, show business is all about doing hard things.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people don't realize that, but you have to do it when you can do it, and you have to do it when you can't. You have to do it when you feel bad and when you feel good, and so forth. Yeah.
How did you hear that Elvis had passed away, sir?
Oh, very strange. I was here at my home, and I walked in from, I had been to the post office or something on that morning of August, the 16th of 1977. And I'd walked into my home, and just as I walked in, I had a phone call from one of my wife's best friends, and she said on the telephone, she said, I heard that Elvis died. She said, do you know anything about it? And I said, surely not. I said, I didn't know anything about it. I hadn't heard yet, and it had just happened that morning, and I hadn't had any news on that morning yet on the radio or anything. Hadn't heard it. And I said, that's got to be just a story that somebody's telling you. And I said, I wouldn't worry about it if I was you. And sure enough, I got off the phone, and I went to the TV and turned it on, and the news was on there that he died. So I had to call her back and tell her, I'm sorry the way I acted. But I didn't think that would happen, at all.
Yeah. So you sang at the funeral, and that must have been very hard on everyone, especially Mr. Vernon.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure it was hard on him. We were back behind the casket in another part of the room there, and really, I didn't get to see Mr. Vernon very much.
No.
And we didn't get to see very many of the people after we sang, and after the funeral was completed. We all came out of the little room we were in back there and went out and talked a little bit, but I don't remember talking to Mr. Vernon myself.
It must have been extremely hot, all those people in that house.
Oh, well, it was plenty warm, yeah, but I didn't notice that very much. One thing that I did notice, and I did go to the casket, and I did stand there, and I did look at Elvis, and Elvis was in the casket, and he was dead. And all the people that have tried to say that he's still alive, he's already gone to heaven.
Yeah, no.
He passed away.
Yeah.
I saw him there, and I know that. So I've heard so many people try to say, well, he's still alive, and that's not true.
Yeah. What are you doing now?
Well, I am kind of semi-retired. I work occasionally. I'll be over in Memphis in August for the whole week of Elvis Week. And on Sunday night, Donnie Sumner and Ed Hill, myself and Larry Strickland will be doing a concert at one of the clubs downtown with Patsy, not a club, but an auditorium down in town. Patsy Anderson will be sponsoring that. Then on Tuesday night, we'll have a gospel concert with the Sweet Inspirations, the Imperials, and the former members of the Stamps Quartet, which is the guys that I'm singing with. We'll have that on the lawn of Graceland. And then Wednesday we have a big rehearsal, and then Thursday we do the big show in the auditorium there at the FedEx Center. And that'll be with Elvis on the screen, and us doing the background for the orchestra. And
I almost forgot to ask you. You're the man who does the
I do all that. I do the high thing, high screaming on the end of Burning Love. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I did that. Do you want to know how that happened?
Yeah, please. I'm sorry that I almost forgot it.
Okay. Well, we were in the studio doing our first album with him in Hollywood, at Hollywood and Vine, the RCA Victor Studios out there. And we were doing our first album with him, and I was so new, and we had done one tour with him, I think, and then we went in the studio to record. And we had done a bunch of songs, and this was like about 2 o'clock in the morning or 1 o'clock in the morning, something like that. He brought this song out, and he started singing it. And Charlie Hodge had told us if Elvis ever points at you during his recording or on stage or anything, he wants you to do something musically to impress him.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was singing that song along, and he had his microphone holding it in his hand, which normally people recording don't do, but he was doing it that way. And he was almost in a karate stance, and he was singing Hunka Hunka Burning Love, Hunka Hunka Burning Love on the end of the song. And he pointed at me, and I didn't know what to do, so I just went, screamed real loud. Trying to break the ice, because I was really astonished that he pointed at me. And when I did, he said, he did it once himself, and he said, well, let's put that on the record. So it took about 3 hours for us to get that perfected on the record the way he wanted it. And by the time we got done, I couldn't hardly talk.
Oh, my goodness.
So screaming like it's really hard on your voice.
Yeah.
But it was about 6 o'clock in the morning when we got that thing done.
Oh, my goodness. Hey, did you ever get a chance to go to Graceland before Elvis had died? Did you? Were you ever?
You okay?
Yeah.
You there? Okay.
Yeah.
I did several times. We recorded the album Way On Down, I think's the title of it. We recorded that over there.
Mm-hmm.
And we recorded Moody Blue over there.
Mm-hmm.
The album Moody Blue.
In the Jungle Room.
In the Jungle Room. We recorded that there. And then I spent some other time there at Graceland on several occasions. When we'd be coming through Memphis, we'd stop, call Elvis, and stop and go visit him.
Mm-hmm.
We did a lot of gospel touring also, in addition to the touring that we did with him.
Mm-hmm.
And when we weren't working with him, we toured and did gospel concerts. And so when we were coming through there, we'd stop, and JD'd stop and call him maybe when we were 100 miles away or so, and see if he's going to be up, and if we could come by and visit, and we'd go by and visit.
What did you think of Graceland the first time you saw it?
I thought it was pretty awesome.
Very Elvis.
The pool room is the one that really amazed me. Not the swimming pool, but the one with the pool table in it.
Uh-huh.
Have you been there?
Oh, yeah.
Well, we're the one with the pool table in it. It's got all the draperies on the ceiling and on the walls and all that.
Uh-huh.
That room and that room next to it where he had his 3 television sets.
Yeah.
Where he watched three networks at one time. I thought those were kind of amazing at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And it was exciting.
And
I enjoyed playing pool down there with James Burton and Cherry Schiff and John Wilkinson.
Oh, yeah?
We had a lot of fun.
You didn't put the hole in the table, did you?
No, I didn't. I'm not a very good pool player.
No.
And that amazed me about the place. And the Jungle Room, first time I saw it, was kind of amazing, but we did our recordings in there.
Mm-hmm. As he was getting on in years, did you see that Elvis wasn't feeling well?
Well, when I left him, I left a year before he died.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was called into the ministry. I felt like God called me in the ministry, so I left in June of 1976. And he was in perfect health. He seemed to me to be in perfect health and doing quite well. But that last year there, or a year and a half, or a year and 2 months after I left, he just went downhill real suddenly.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what caused that. But it seemed to me that when I left, the last show I did with him was in the Omni in Atlanta, Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
And on June the 6th of 1976. And he did great. I mean, he was just acting great, looked like he was feeling great, and looked great and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I figured he'd go on for a long, long time. But I went into the ministry.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Did you ever talk to Elvis about religion?
I didn't personally. I didn't really have the opportunity to talk with him one-on-one about that.
Mm-hmm.
He talked to us, to the whole group at times, about his feelings, about what he thought, and so forth. And
it always seems like it just seemed like Bill. It just seemed like he was searching for something, especially toward the end.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was reading all these religious books, different religions, and
right. Well, he did mention some of those books to us on occasion, but not very much. I'm a staunch Christian myself, and
as I am too.
I was a very young boy, and of course a Christian minister for the last 30 years. Mm-hmm. And I have to say this, I'm not very tolerating of other forms of religion other than Christianity, and I respect the people that believe in those things, but I don't agree with them. I'm a very dyed-in-the-wool Christian. So whenever Elvis would talk about those things, I would just listen and not say anything, and that's what I did most of the time, just listen, and let him say what he felt, and he would say things, but I believe in his heart he was really a Christian, and I will always believe that, and he just read just to enhance his education and his knowledge of things.
What do you think of the everlasting popularity of Elvis?
I think it's marvelous, and I think it should be, and I'm glad. I'm just so excited to be a part of the opportunity to share in it. I didn't envision it whenever I was very young and working there. I didn't envision anything like this, and it's just unbelievable to me.
Well, I thank you very much, Mr. Baize, for doing this for Elvis Express Radio.
Well, you're welcome, and I hope that you have a great day, and your radio program just continues to be wonderful like I know it is, and all the fans in England that listen to this, I want to say hello to them. I've never been to Spain, and I've never been to England. We used to sing a song with Elvis called "I've Never Been to Spain." Well, I've never been to England. I have been to Denmark and the Netherlands. And
I'm sure they'll have you.
Pardon?
I said I'm sure they'll have you if you go.
Well, I'm hoping to go someday. And to everyone in England, I know that you're wonderful people, and I appreciate so much you following Elvis, because Elvis was a great guy. And I'm glad to just talk to you. God bless all of you.
Well, thank you very much.